these images, I do a combination of Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, and then I animate in PowerPoint. It's not that hard. These things are pretty intuitive tools, and you need to use them. Don't over animate, but you can, if you need to get a couple of things across, I think it can be helpful. And then
by animate, I'm sorry, do you just mean like transitions in the slides? Or do you mean like things flying at your face, or how much?
Yeah, you never see my slides come in like and bounce, and words don't come in and bounce in and slide out. I never do that. I only use animations when I feel like it's going to help get a point across. And I don't think I would challenge you to find me using one just for fun, because I think it's a horrible style actually. Yeah. Sorry if anybody uses that. You should stop. This next slide is fine. I mean, I guess I don't mind if the words come in and just plug in sometimes, but these people do the stupidest thing, and then they just think that, oh, watch this. There's the one transition in the Mac where you hit the screen like that, and it ripples, and then goes to the next slide. Parlor tricks. Okay.
The other thing I noticed too is that you write white background.
So I'll tell you, I think, and we'll get to the slides, but I don't ever use the canned PowerPoint things, because what happens is you get these colors that kind of clutter up your slides. It doesn't have to be a white background, but I'll tell you, having a white background helps if you're bringing a lot of images in, because there's often a lot of white borders, and you just, it looks kind of crummy when it's sitting on top of a color. You can always see that you brought in something, and this sort of makes it invisible. You can have, there are templates, right? So sometimes your institution wants you to use a template. My institution would probably prefer that I use a template, but I don't. Sometimes I'll put a little label in the bottom of a slide if I maybe I'll put a little GW thing somewhere. But yeah, I tend to stick with a pretty plain slide, but hopefully my stuff isn't too plain. I try to simplify terms, so the other thing that you can do is simplify terminology, help people understand. So this is one thing that I'll do. Like, this is the nightmare superbug, CRE, and it's carbapenem resistant Enterobacteriaceae. But then I'll just help people understand, hey, that's just super resistant E. coli, or methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus. That's just staph that's resistant to our best antibiotics. So diffuse the science as best you can. If you're going to use some terminology through your talk, define it early on, and define it in really simple terms. The challenge is being really simple and being accurate. So you have to maintain accuracy, right? I think analogies can be really powerful for helping people understand things. And there, again, it takes some intuition about your audience, or some homework on your part on what type of analogies might help your audience connect. Analogies can also get you into trouble. I mean, I've been in trouble a few times for this one, which is trying to explain the different types of E. coli from a clinical perspective. It's really, there's the good, the kind that you carry around in your gut, the bad that causes diarrhea, that's like 0157, and then the ugly, which is extraintestinal pathogenic E. coli. This is also a cultural reference. Does anyone know what the reference is? Ha! See, older people totally connect with this. It's a Clint Eastwood movie called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Anyway, so
why has that gotten you in trouble sometimes?
This is what gets me in trouble. So those are all the same species. So are these, and I'll try to explain that there's the importance of species variation when it comes to pathogenicity of bacteria. There's a lot of species variation, or within species variation here too. These are all actually the same subspecies, but you can see that they're very different, as scientists would call it, phenotypes, right? They look very different. E. coli is the same way, and maybe you might group that. This is where I start getting in trouble, because then I say, look, the relative risk is not equal between these guys, right? This guy's vicious, but this guy will do some real damage. And pitbull lovers hate that. So, and then translate the science. What I mean here is that, I do a lot. I talk about whole genome phylogeny, and I've already used a lot of time. So, what I'll try to do before I show some complex phylogenetic trees is just teach people how to look at a phylogenetic tree. And I would only show phylogenetic trees to certain audiences, right? So when I do big audiences or general audiences, I wouldn't even show the tree. I'll skip right to the translation, which I'll show you in a minute. But for you guys, I would normally say, all right, this is how you interpret a tree. I'm not going to go through it because of time, but this is how you interpret a tree, blah, blah, blah. And then I'd show some real trees, and I color code them to help people understand what they're looking at. I layer on the data, so I don't give them all the data at once. I layer on data. But then I boil it down, and I say, all right, what we found from using this evolutionary study was that this new strain of staph actually started off colonizing people. It was susceptible to antibiotics. It jumped from people to pigs. In pigs, where we use lots of antibiotics, it made this transition from staph to MRSA, and then it spread back to people. And so I can take that whole evolutionary tree, and I can walk people through it, explain it, but then I fix it in their brain with a very simple diagram. And you have to, I have to say with a caveat, that's what this science suggests, right? Strongly suggests. And for a general audience, I go right for this, basically. I describe the study, but I don't show them the trees. I use a lot of concise, or not a lot, but I do use some concise statements. If there's a really important point, a really short, important point that I want to get across, I'll just put the words up on a slide. So something that I think is really critical for people to understand is that that code has to be in the computer for it to project. Okay, so antibiotics are societal drugs. So what I'm trying to do is explain to people that antibiotics are like no other drug class, right? So if you overuse Tylenol, you can destroy your liver and die, but it doesn't affect anybody else's ability to take Tylenol. But antibiotics, if you misuse them, you can help create drug-resistant bacteria that can then spread to other people and prevents them from using that same antibiotic. So in that way, it's a totally different class of antibiotics. But I want to fix that concept in people's heads, so I'll have just that simple statement up there as I explain it. I don't know. I hope that works. And then this is something that, some variation of this I almost always open with. I'm just like, hey guys, I'll also start with a little warning, right? I'm going to start a little negative, but I promise I'm going to end on a positive note, so you give people, you don't want people to think, oh man, this is going to be a drag all the way through, right? Sort of say, let me start a little negative, but I promise I'm going to show a path towards something positive. But I want people to understand this, so I put it up there. It's a little bit long, but it doesn't take that long to read, right? Are you done yet? Almost. Okay, let me give them another couple minutes.
So why the right now in parentheses?
Oh, I just added that. That's funny. Last time I presented that, I added that in there, and maybe it doesn't work, but I was just like, this is not in the next 10 years. This is like today. Mm-hmm. And so I probably shouldn't have it on there. I can just say that, and I'm glad you brought it up because I don't love it.
Yeah, to me it feels a little like, otherwise it's like this declarative statement. Yeah. And then that feels like caveated.
Yeah.
I feel like it takes away from the the kind of declarativeness, like the importance, like you're trying to hit them over the head and then you're like whispering.
Yeah, right. No, that's really good. I really appreciate feedback like that because I'm going to take it out forever.
What do other people think? Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I just think it's repetitive. Today, right now.
Yo. Yeah. No, that's good. And I think that's the other thing to remember that you're going to, as you do this more and more, you're going to try things and you're going to maybe that wasn't so great. And almost never have the same slide deck, no matter how many times I present. I'm always like, oh, that didn't, nobody laughed when I said that. All right. Which brings me to my next part. Cautiously. Use humor cautiously. If you're good at being funny, throw it in a little bit, but don't use it too much. I had, and then don't put a Far Sight cartoon in your talk. I'm sorry. I mean, people don't put a canned, like a newspaper article cartoon in your talk. People do that, and then invariably there's like one person kind of chuckles, and the rest of the audience is like trying to see the blurry thing.
Yeah.
And almost, I've never seen it work. Has anyone seen it work?
I actually saw a talk last week where it worked. It was a cartoon from a New Yorker where they were confusing an epidemiologist with a dermatologist.
Well, that's kind of cool.
It was kind of cool because they're like, it was like a cartoon, and they're like, oh, we're glad you invited, an epidemiologist to the party, and they're like trying to show him, the skin rash. But then she, like the presenter, kind of re-emphasized it with, I really like this because my family still thinks I'm a skin doctor. Right?
My mom, when I was in high school, told me, hey, you should look into epidemiology. I was like, Mom, I don't care about skin. I didn't tell her that then. And then at the end of college, I was like, I think I like public health. And she was like, obviously, I told you. So I would have gotten
Skin is so important.
So there it worked, but she kind of reinforced the cartoon with her own story.
So that's one example out of 1,000 talks that I've seen. So I would stay away from those as best as possible. I had my doctoral advisor. I like to incorporate humor, and it's a balance because you do want to convey the importance of your subject, but you also don't want to be a drag the whole time. But if you don't tend to be a funny person, then you probably should stay away from it, because if you're not funny in normal circumstances, you're probably not going to be funny in a talk. I had one of my doctoral advisors from Hopkins said, I gave a talk, and it was a pretty good one. I mean, I was on, and I made people laugh a lot, and I felt pretty proud of that. But he sat me down afterwards, and he's like, my dad was a scientist, and he gave a lot of talks, and 1,000 people have come up to me and told me how funny he was. Everybody tells me how funny he was. Not one person has ever told me how smart he was. People should walk away from your talk thinking you're smart first, and then maybe you're funny. And I was like, there's some personal issues. That was my walk away lesson. But you do have to strike a balance, and that's what I tried to walk away from with that. I thought that was really funny. Daddy issues. Hopefully he doesn't ever watch this video. Obviously know your material, If you put up a slide with something on it, make sure you know that. And it gets harder and harder when you get asked to give more and more lectures and guest lectures in classes and cover broad issues. You're going to eventually get into a point where you're going to put something up and you're not going to know everything. But when you're talking about your subject, you should know it all, because, and it's happened to me, somebody says, how does MEC A work? How does MRSA become methicillin resistant? And I spaced it. And I couldn't answer the question. And this was a while back, right? And I couldn't answer the question. And it really, I could see in the room. I went from here to sort of here in everybody's head, right? Except for my mom. No, right? So. You can't know everything, but you can control what you put in your slides, right? So be careful about it. And it's okay not to be able to answer every question, which is a different part. But when it comes to what you do have in your talk, be careful. Anticipating confusion, I think, is really important. So I talk about foodborne urinary tract infections. I can see it on people's faces. I could see it on people's faces even after I spoke about it for a while that they didn't get it. And so I would put this up there because I could see it on their face, and I would just walk through it one more time. So you ingest E. coli from the food. E. coli grows in your gut. E. coli moves from the gut to the urethra, from the anus to the urethra. It's a short trip. And then that sets up a urinary tract infection. And then, then you see the light bulbs. And you learn how to watch for the light bulb moments, You need to learn to watch for confused looks on people's faces. You don't do it for that one person who's not very smart, but if there's you can talk to them afterwards, But if there's a good chunk of your audience that's like, doing the dog whistle look, then you need to sort of say, am I confusing you guys? And sort of check in with people sometimes. It depends on the venue, but I think checking in with people is good. For you as new presenters, you really want to make a script. And there's great tools for this in PowerPoint where you can have little notes underneath there. You want to work out exactly in an ideal situation what you'd say about each slide. Now, and then you want to practice, right? And you want to practice in front of people, and you want to practice and practice and practice and get good at this. And then you want to burn your script, right, Sarah? You want to get rid of that because you don't want to give a canned talk. But what you do want to work out is what you would say ideally, right? If you were totally on, or if you were reading from a script, this is what you'd say. And what that does for you is get you into a position where you've already worked out what you would say under an ideal situation. And then you get up there and you vary. You're not going to say it exactly, right? But you're going to be communicating to people like real people and not giving a speech. So that's probably my last slide is, oh, hey, look at that. You don't want to give a speech, right? You don't want to get up there like a stiff dude in a suit at a podium giving a talk, giving a speech, a prepared speech. You want to connect with your audience. How am I doing?
153. Right. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to connect with your audience. And so if you've gone through and you've made a script and you've worked out what you would say under ideal conditions and you've practiced, then you can leave that behind and you can say, hey, if I get close, it's close enough. Nobody in this audience knows what I intended to say, right? You want to try not to say anything stupid, but I think once you've done that, you'll be fine. And then you want to look at people and you want to connect with them and not give a speech. For me, this is what you may not know it, but this is sort of where I usually am. I'm pretty insecure. Big, fragile ego. But I think that this is really good. I'm just looking at this mark on there. I hope that's not permanent. I think this makes good scientists, right? So you're never sure about your science, and it makes you really study, right? It makes you work on your project, and it makes you work hard and dig into the data and do your homework. Being a little bit insecure about getting up and giving a talk is going to make you prepare. It's going to make you work on your script and make you prepare good slides. But the last thing you want to do is walk up on that stage or in front of your peers feeling insecure, right? So right before you get up, or the day before you get up, depends on how far ahead you prepare your stuff, you need to let all that insecurity go and say, I know this issue. I've done my homework, and I'm going to get up there and I'm going to kick ass, right? I'm going to get up there and I'm going to do a really good job. And the more times you do it, the more times you can go, hey, I did this last week. I did this a year ago, or I did this 6 months ago. I did this 3 months ago. And did you feel that, Sarah, as we went through the class? Like you could remember that you did a great job last week, or you did better last week than the before.
Yeah, especially with just memorizing stuff. Like the more you do it, like, the first time, I have to look at that number or that specific, hard word or something. And then, the more times you do it, you just basically memorize it and get out more confident.
Mm-hmm. But it's a mental game that I play with myself for sure. I mean, it's a bad way to phrase things, isn't it? It's a mental game that I go through in terms of I give myself a little pep talk before I give a talk. I'm just like, I know my stuff. And I stay, you know, it's like the guy in the mirror. I'm smart enough. That's a Saturday Night Live reference that you guys wouldn't know. Okay. Step out. If there's a podium, don't lock yourself behind it. You know, get out from behind there. And this is so critical, right? So critical. Stick to your time. How many people have been in lectures that went way over? And you're annoyed with them, right? You went from being their favorite lecturer to being that jerk that won't shut up, right? I'm watching my time. So have your, you know, if you have iPhones, every phone has a timer on it now. Set your timer and have it on your podium. Don't forget to take your phone when you're done, because the guy who comes up there afterwards is going to steal it. Like that happened to me before.
Oh.
And pace yourself, because often what happens is people spend so much time on their beginning slides, and then they they kind of get to that like, oh shit moment. They get the 2-minute signal, and then they have like 10 slides to go, and you haven't given your work the fair, you haven't given your work justice, because you've often left the hardest stuff for a very little time, right?
Yeah, and that should never happen in a scenario where people are holding their questions to the end. If you see somebody do that where they're like, oh, sorry, and they switch ahead, they did not prepare. But if it's in a classroom setting where you just open it up to questions, then that's going to happen, right? Well, I want to skip ahead and give you a couple of last things, right? But in a prepared speech, or your 15-minute talk with 3 minutes of question and answer, when people do that, it's because they screwed up. And you guys,
but it happens.
It happens a lot.
Yeah,
and
it happens.
But it's not going to happen to you. All right, slides, quickly. Simplicity, I think, is really important. Keep them simple. Minimize text. Maximize the size of your text. I like. If I'm sitting in the back of the room, I want to be able to read that slide as much as the person in the front. And if you minimize how much text you have on a slide, you're not going to have that problem. You can blow up those words. Sometimes, maybe I blow them up too big. Maybe my stuff comes off a little cartoony, but that's what I do. I don't know. High quality images. So this is Staph aureus. This is an electromicrogram of Staph aureus that I downloaded from the internet. So is this. Which one would you rather look at, right? How many slides have you seen like this? All the time, right? It's so lame. If you're gonna download images from the internet, there's a tools button, and you click it and you say only big images, or medium or larger, and that's gonna keep you from downloading stuff like this. If you do download it and it looks like that, don't use it. You just draw an oval or a circle or something, right? And paint it purple. Do something different. I don't use these. If you have one that you love and it's not too busy, I guess you can do it, but I don't think it adds anything to talks. It's a personal choice, though. But if I see you using it, I'm going to think less of you. That's not to say that you shouldn't have a visual theme. I think you should. But you can have a visual theme, a color scheme, a look to your slides. I mix and match my slides all the time, and I hope that my slides always look like a package, right? That always look like they're the same part of the package. Part of that is that I always have a white background. I always, use primary colors, and then I try to draw all my own figures, and I use the Fisher-Price throughout. I either use Fisher-Price or I use the giant micro stuffed animal things, and I use them consistently, and I hope that gives my talks sort of this consistent look. How many people have seen those obviously mixed decks, slide decks? What do you guys think of those talks?
Well, it's clear that they're just like mixing and matching, or even sometimes taking slides from other organizations that maybe they also have a part, like a role in. Maybe they're on a board in some other organization, and like sometimes it even has like the wrong logo.
It's lame.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have my old boss is colorblind. He pulls them off. It's just like, they look awful. And then he mixes them, and he uses a template from here, a template here, and it just looks terrible. And I'm like, get rid of all that stuff. And so, this is my look, right? This thing. you know, and I draw all these little, I drew that pork chop, I'm really proud of that. And then so I talk about, you know, getting rid of the antibiotics, and so it's this consistent look. Some people love to have that watermark in the background of every slide. I think it's a bad idea, genes, but people do it. Bad idea, genes is a cultural reference from the 80s.
I know that one. Yeah, that's a great.
These are just examples. Yeah.
That's a great one. Yeah.
No, I didn't wear a condom. I figured, when am I going to be in Haiti again? Bad idea, jeans. Yes. Color. Yeah, I like color. I mean, I like to use color, but use consistent color. Charts and figures. So this is important because you guys are probably going to have some charts and figures. It's sort of expected of you. When you put up a chart, make sure that people can read it. You know, don't put up the chart or the table and say, and apologize immediately. How many people have seen that? I know you can't read this, but what I want you to get from this is, if they can't read it, don't put it up there, or immediately blow up the part that you want people to see. But when you put up a chart like this, introduce the axes. This is your friend, and you're introducing them to your new group of friends, right? So this is my friend, E. coli and retail meat, and on the x-axis we have the different meat types that we tested, and on the y-axis we have the percent of E. coli that were, or the percent of products that were contaminated with E. coli. So make sure, if you put up this chart, that you explain what that chart is. And I have to say, this is something that I have to remind myself, I need to stay on top of this. This is one of my favorite slides ever, and I didn't make it, so I can't control the busyness of it. But what I can do is help people, draw people's attention to the key factors of this. I always say, when I put this one up, I almost always say is like, this is one of my favorite slides ever. I know it's a busy graph, but I want you to see something in this because it is so important to what I'm talking about. This slide gives me hope, right? So these, on the y-axis is the percent of, or when I set up the story first, I say this shows what happened in Canada when they stopped injecting chicken eggs with ceftiofur, one of our most important, or cephalosporins, third generation cephalosporins, one of our most important classes of antibiotics for treating E. coli infection. And so on the y-axis you have the percent of microbes that are resistant to cephalosporins, and then on the y-axis, or x-axis, you have time. I usually do a better job of explaining this. What happened here was that sometime back in here, the Canadian government went to the Quebec broiler producers and said, please, please, please stop using ceftiofur, stop using cephalosporins and chicken eggs, stop injecting them. And please means something different in Canadian, and they said, okay, that's always my standard joke. And everybody always laughs because it's so funny. Cultural reference to Canadians saying A all the time. So in the first quarter of 2005, they stopped injecting eggs, and look what happens, you know, and so you show the excitement, right? Because I am excited about it. This makes me so happy. This is cephalosporin-resistant salmonella on poultry products. It plummets immediately. So what you do in the eggs matters on the chicken breast. And then this red line is cephalosporin-resistant salmonella infections in people. It plummets, right? So you stop injecting chicken eggs with cephalosporins, and you stop having cephalosporin-resistant salmonella infections in people, a direct positive impact on human health. And this one is E. coli, so it's not just salmonella, right? So I think even though this is a busy slide, I don't even talk about these bars, which is drug use and consumption of third-generation cephalosporins with humans too. But you know, just draw people's attention to it. Hopefully that worked. Audio, video. Don't use noises. I do I'm so tempted to have the sound from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly on that one slide, but I've never done it. And then how many times have you seen people say, oh, I have this embedded video, let me show you this, and it never works, right? Or it takes 10 minutes to set up and they just wasted 10 minutes of their time. So be really careful of that. Think about flow, the flow of your talk, and I've been speaking for an hour.